Hi there. So today's live stream is going to be significantly different than most of the live streams, and there's a number of reasons why. First of all, my students right now are taking the ACT test, and as I'm from Ohio, I teach in Ohio, and so one of the standardized tests that is delivered to juniors is the ACT. So I don't have any students right now, so I thought this would be a good time to show you what the classroom looks like, to lay out what this course looks like, and because this is, this whole live stream thing is kind of experimental, I just thought it'd be a good idea just to show you what the class looks like. So the class was designed to be something different, very non-traditional. There's no homework, there are no tests, there are no quizzes, and that was done by design. There are a number of reasons why I decided to design it that way, and I think probably what's most important, I think, about the design of the course was that I did it with the help of a lot of people. I knew that at the time when I had suggested this course that there was a lot that had to be done in order to prepare, and I wasn't even sure if the course itself was going to work. So I did a lot of reading. I talked to a lot of people, I got a lot of feedback, and from there, technical writing was born as well as technical reading through games. And so this is a two-part course, and so we're in the second semester here, and the second semester is technical reading. So first semester was technical writing through games, this semester is technical reading through games, and the design of the course is that, once again, it's non-traditional. So the idea is to leverage games for really two main reasons. One of them is engagement, just to get students more interested in what it is that we're doing. But the second thing is also, I don't want to say a more authentic form, but just an authentic form of assessment. So the great thing about games is that you have iteration. So, kids can attempt the game over and over and over again and fail multiple times, but they can still continue to try. And so I'm thinking of a game like Cuphead, for example. It appears to be a simple side scroller, really stylistic, very kind of cartoony, very kind of cool game. But kids realize very quickly that it's a very difficult game, and they also realize that it's perfectly fine to fail multiple times, and to keep going. And so I think that's an important lesson for education. And so that's how this class was kind of born, with that idea. I've played games since I was a young kid. In fact, one of the rules that my parents had for me growing up when we got our first Nintendo in 1986, I think, was that for every hour I wanted to play the Nintendo, I had to read for an hour. And so I'm pretty sure that it did two things. One, made me love reading and love English, and number two, I had a love for games, and so I thought, well, let's try to utilize both of those things. So here we are. Now, is the class perfect? No, I'm learning a lot as I go, and part of the reason why I wanted to do this live stream was I wanted a warts and all approach. So I wanted everyone to see that the class it's not perfect. There are a lot of things that that I've learned over the course of the year so far, and I'm sure a lot of things that I'm going to learn. And part of the reason why I learned those things is because I was real open and honest with my students, letting them know that this is the first year we're attempting this, and so when things don't work out, to be honest with me. And so that's helped. They've been a tremendous help in terms of getting me to a place where the course is designed with more student choice and more student voice. And I think that's really, really important as well. So I did mention, that I did a lot of reading, a lot of research, and so I want to show a few things here before we get into the way the class looks and the way it's set up. So one person I talked to that had the opportunity to read a number of his books is Matthew Farber, Dr. Matthew Farber. And so this is one called Game-Based Learning in Action. And I'll put a link in the description here. That way you can check these out for yourself as well. But I actually have several of his books. One of the other book that I have of his right now, a colleague is borrowing. But it helped me realize that there are other teachers out there who are also using games to teach, and so that was really, really helpful. And it wasn't just all theory; it was practice, which was really, really important for me to see. I mean, I read a lot of research over the last year and a half about using games as a learning tool, and so I wanted something that was more substantial. I wanted something that was actual practice, and so Matthew Farber's books were just that. It was practice. So that was a great experience there. I recently got this book, Games, Learning, and Society. This is a really good one, actually. This is there's just a lot of information in this book. I'm not all the way through. You can kind of see where my post-it notes are right now. But I'm about halfway through it. And there's a ton of information in here as well. I have, I'll post a link to this one too. And then I have Moral Combat by Dr. Patrick Markey and Dr. Christopher Ferguson. This was extremely well written and an incredibly interesting read. And so the subtitle of this is Why the War on Violent Video Games is Wrong. One of the things I was contemplating using in my course was Call of Duty World War II, and you can kind of see the poster over my shoulder here. And so last summer, I went through and played a bunch of video games just to test it out to see what was appropriate, what wasn't appropriate, and there were a lot of internal debates that I had in terms of what am I going to use in class, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and I wanted to go beyond just a gut feeling. I really wanted to get some insight. I wanted some real research that I could use to make some decisions in terms of what I was going to use in class and what I wasn't going to use in class. And I know that there are educators all over the U.S. that are using different kinds of games, and so this is one of the books that I turn to, and it's a very interesting read. So those are just three of the books. Like I said, tons of research, and so I'll try to post a few of those in the link below after this live stream is done. So that's kind of how the course was born. I wrote the course, I developed the course. I got a lot of great feedback from colleagues from all over the United States, and also colleagues in my own English department here. And so here we are, 3/4 of the way through the school year. And it looks like next year the course will be offered as well. And next year I'll be live streaming every single day once again, and hopefully the live stream will go a little more smoothly. I'm not a YouTube celebrity. I'm not a YouTuber, and so I'm also learning a lot about what that looks like as well. So, for those of you who are sticking around, I appreciate you following my journey, the journey of my class, of my course here, and so hopefully we can learn a lot together throughout the rest of the school year. So let's take a look at the classroom. All right. So you're going to be the eyes here, so I'm just going to kind of move you around the room here, all right? So this is my classroom. What I've done was I've actually taken a large portion of the classroom and really tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. And so I've tried to post a lot of things up, a lot of posters that I myself have made that are reference materials for students. So not just inspirational sayings, those kind of things, and those are important too, but I wanted posters that students would refer to when it came to the vocabulary of technical reading and technical writing. And so you'll see a lot of posters up and around that reference a lot of vocab for technical reading and technical writing. This board has changed pretty significantly over the last year. So at first, Scrum is a business model, and then what I realized was that was practical for what I needed it for, and so I actually set this up in preparation for next year. And so what we're going to do is each student's going to have their name, and then they're going to be required to try each one of these different kinds of games. And so, it's real easy for kids to play games that they're used to playing, or style that they're used to playing that they really like. Trying to get them out of that comfort zone, experience other kinds of games as well. So that's what this is going to be used for next year. This station here is the Steam station. So I'm a big fan of Steam, and so what I did was I wanted to make a station that was more for kind of independent games, I guess maybe the best way to put it. And so we have games like Fez. We just got a game called Two Brothers. We have Cuphead. We have a lot of either 8-bit or like side-scroller kinds of games, those kinds of things. The idea with this station was I wanted to give them a different kind of game playing experience. So one that was unique in terms of game mechanics. So something different than you might see on a big console, I guess. All right. So this is our Steam station. It's run off of one laptop that is connected to our TV here, and then we've got speakers as well. We do have a Steam controller. We have an Xbox controller that we can hook up to it as well. So this is one station, and if you follow this live stream, starting tomorrow, actually, students will be determining what games they want to use for this next unit, which is audience and games. And so this is our Steam station here, right? Then, if we move across the room here a little bit, you'll see we have two stations here. So, this is our Xbox station, and we have an Xbox One in here, and we have a number of games. These are more, kind of commercial blockbuster type games, and so we've got like Battlefront 2. You have a few first-person shooters. We have Minecraft. We have a few sports games, NBA 2K18. We got Madden 18. So we have a number of blockbuster games. All right. So I wanted to give them a big console experience with this one, and so we have our Xbox. It's of course hooked up to our TV. Once again, if you follow live stream, you'll see them playing on this tomorrow. And so the way this works is the students are in pods, and they're in pods of between 3 and 5 students in a pod. And those pods move together for each unit. So if you start on the Steam, you move over to the Xbox. And then from the Xbox, you move over to the Switch, and switch to board games to VR. And so we do this kind of counterclockwise movement for each unit. And so each unit, they get a different system, they get a different game, and a different experience. That's the idea anyways. All right. So if we move on, we have our Switch station over here. So this is our Switch station here. We have everything from Donkey Kong Country to Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda, Breath of the Wild. So a number of different games there. All right. Once again, we have it hooked up to our TV here, and you'll notice in between the TVs it's an example of the vocabulary that I thought was important for them to be able to understand. So games as Design Spaces from Matthew Farber's book, Game-Based Learning in Action. And then we have The Rhetoric of Games from Piaget on Play, a critique by Sutton B. Smith. We have Bartle's Player Types up here. So we have posters all around the room, once again, that serve as reference points for students when they're either you're talking about games or doing response on Google Classroom or any of those kinds of things. All right. So I'm going to move over just a little bit further here. And if we move over just a little bit further here, you'll notice there are a number of things in the classroom that don't necessarily have to do with games. I'm also the stage director of our high school musical, so a lot of the props from those shows will end up in my classroom here, just as a reminder of some of the things I've done in the past. So we have something from Shrek here, we have something from West Side Story here. So this is our board game station. And when I was designing the course, I knew that the video games would be an easy sell for kids. I wasn't sure about board games, but I also knew that board games have their own user interface. Of course, they have their own set of rules. And it's a different playing experience in a video game, but it's a playing experience that I wanted the students to be able to have. And so we have things like This War of Mine, Sheriff of Nottingham, Catan, Pandemic. Of course, we have classics like Monopoly, but we have a number of games in here for students to pick from. So the idea is they pick from here, they play on this table here, all right? And a number of them are co-op, a number of them are individual. The idea really, when I started to look into games, I wanted games that had a more narrative base to them. Because it's, a number of these, game systems are narrative based as well, but I wanted them to see the difference between narrative-based video games and narrative-based board games, because there are a lot of differences there. So those are four of the 5 stations. So the last station is actually the station behind the camera, and that is an HTC Vive. So I can show you here. This is our HTC Vive system here. You can see above me. We have a sensor up here. All right. So this is our Vive station here in the front of the room. So that way they could get an experience with virtual reality, something a little bit different. And so those are all of the stations in the classroom. So each student has the opportunity to experience every single one of those stations, and usually multiple times within the course. So the first semester was technical writing through games, so every single student in there was able to experience every station at least once, and most were able to experience at least one station twice. And so for technical reading, they'll experience each station only one time. And so students that are in both writing and reading, which is about 99% of the students that I have, are in both of those courses, they really have the opportunity to experience every station at least twice. And so they get kind of a varied experience when it comes to games, not just video games, but also board games as well. All right. So that's the class, just so you have an idea of what this looks like, because in these live streams, the camera's always turned on me facing the board. And so I thought it was important that you got an opportunity to see what the classroom itself actually looks like, see how it operates and those kinds of things. So you'll never see a student on this live stream. You'll hear them because I'll ask them questions when they're playing video games. I think this is really, really important. In fact, one of the things that I've discovered over the last year of doing this course is the fact that as an English teacher, I always had a difficult time trying to get students to verbalize the process that they went through as they would write. And so what I discovered was that when students were playing video games, though, for example, in a group of 2, 3, 4, they have this monologue that just continues, and it's a monologue that you wouldn't necessarily normally notice if you weren't paying attention, but they talk about their experience playing the game the entire time while they're experiencing it. We don't get that a lot when it comes to writing. I don't have a lot of students, that as they're sitting down writing an essay, they're not having this external monologue about what they're thinking as they write the essay. But as they play the game, we do get that. And so we get an insight into the thought process as students approach this game. And so when it comes to asking questions, a lot of times what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to think a little bit deeper than what they're used to thinking about the game. Try to think a little more about beyond the immediate experience of the game itself. Beyond just trying to beat the game, but really what makes the game up. How is text being used in that game? How can we highlight both technical reading and technical writing in the game? And then after I ask those questions, as they play in their groups, we generally come back together, we'll talk about it. I'll have responses for them to respond to online in Google Classroom. Some of them are shorter responses, some of them are longer responses. Some of them require screenshots or video of gameplay. Some of them are just text-based. And then at the end of a unit, which lasts anywhere from usually about 3 weeks, then we'll come back together, and then they take all of their responses from that unit and they place it into an online writing portfolio. And the reason why they do an online writing portfolio is because it gives them the opportunity to be able to not only showcase what they've learned so far, but it also gives them a different audience. So it's not just me seeing it, but it's a larger audience being able to see it. So the stakes are a little bit higher. So things have to be, they have to be proofread because there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be reading it. It has to be designed in such a way so that that way they can understand things a little bit easier, so on and so forth. So that's the design of the course. We start off with an introduction to the unit, where we talk about what's the focus of the unit going to be, define some of the vocabulary that might be used. Students pick a game that they want to play from their game system that they're on. We look at questions that force them to focus in on a particular aspect of gameplay as they play. They do responses. We discuss. I give examples from other games so that way they can see really explicitly how those questions play into the unit. They do some more playing. They do some more responses. We come back together as a group. Then they create that unit in their online writing portfolio for other people to be able to see, and then we move on to the next unit. So we do a lot of different things here. Like I said, is it perfect? It's not perfect yet. We're getting there. The students are helping me along the way. So once again, I appreciate the fact that you're joining us on this journey. So I hope that you enjoy these live streams. I hope that you can find them useful, and whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a gamer, I hope that we can provide some entertainment for you, but more importantly, some context to see how games can be used as learning. So, thank you for watching, and have a great day.